Lori Noreen Cox was raised in Southern California and embraced all of the precepts from the LDS Church teachings. Many said Lori was friendly, eager to succeed, and very religious. Her early life looked normal. Lori was married young, had kids, and appeared to follow all the family values important to her faith. However, with time passing, her personal life presented symptoms of problems and an example of failed relationships. Lori's friendly personality and charm hid a growing obsession with religion that took a darker turn. Her beliefs shifted from mainstream LDS teachings to radical apocalyptic ideas. She immersed herself in books, podcasts, and videos about the end times, evil spirits, and divine missions. This path led her to connect with a man who shared and fueled her extreme views. The meeting that changed everything. In late 2018, Lori Vallow attended a religious conference in St. George, Utah, where she first met Chad Daybell. It was the meeting that would drastically change her life. Chad Daybell wrote books and made podcasts. He had a small group of fans for his stories about the end of the world, based on LDS beliefs. His books talked about the end of the world, spiritual battles, and getting good people ready for Christ's return. The stories mixed fiction with Chad's own view of the apocalypse, which connected with a small but loyal group of readers. Chad saw himself as a person with a special link to divine messages. He said he had close-to-death experiences that let him see the afterlife and learn about the future. He believed these experiences showed him that God had chosen him for an important role in the predicted end times. A key part of his belief was that only 144,000 righteous believers would survive the destruction at the end to help rebuild the earth. According to Chad, this group of spiritually pure people was chosen by God to fulfill his plan. If you find these revelations as fascinating as we do, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into the minds of those who believe they are divinely chosen. Lori had already become heavily involved in religious teachings when she met Chad and was just beginning to explore the unusual interpretations of LDS beliefs. Reports claim that Lori had read Chad's books before meeting him, and she already knew his teachings. They had an instant connection. Lori agreed with Chad's views on the end of the world, as she felt that she had some special purpose, but Chad was seemingly attracted by Lori, who was charismatic, beautiful, and no less enthusiastic about their identical ideas. Lori and Chad started communicating with each other soon after the conference. It is claimed that they had thousands of phone calls and text messages. Not only did they talk about spiritual matters, but also their personal feelings. Lori would tell Chad that she believed she was a goddess and had been chosen to lead people during the end times. Chad would always support Lori and tell her that she was among the 144,000 people and had been picked by God for a great reason. As Lori and Chad's relationship grew stronger, they created a common set of beliefs that combined traditional LDS teachings with their views. They started to view the world in simple terms of good and evil, light and dark. Chad taught Lori his way of seeing people as either light spirits or dark spirits, depending on how pure they seemed spiritually. He said that people called dark were affected by evil forces and could not be saved. These ideas were very important in shaping what they did, as they started to see themselves as spiritual fighters against evil forces. This was the starting point of a dramatic and tragic path. Chad had more control over Lori, and together, they began to justify what would turn out to be a series of crimes. The common belief in their mission only bound them together, but distorted their moral compass, and eventually paved the way for unimaginable crimes to be committed. Role of religion. Religion was very important in the tragedy. Lori and Chad's ideas about spirits, possession, and divine missions affected what they did and made them think their actions were right. Investigators say the couple thought Tylee and JJ were zombies taken over by evil spirits. Chad supposedly persuaded Lori that the only way to free the children's spirits was to kill their physical bodies. Text messages between Lori and Chad revealed their growing detachment from reality. They discussed spiritual hierarchies, assigning people around them light or dark designations based on perceived spiritual purity. These conversations painted a chilling picture of a couple consumed by their delusions. A string of tragedies, a timeline of suspicious deaths. By late 2018, when Lori Vallow met Chad Daybell, her personal life was full of problems and doubts. Her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, had been warning others about Lori's strange behavior for months. Court documents indicate that Charles claimed Lori became obsessed with doomsday ideas and thought she was a special person chosen to get the world ready for the return of Christ. Her strong beliefs and threatening comments made Charles afraid for his life. In one chilling claim, Charles told authorities that Lori had said she no longer needed him and that he was an obstacle to her spiritual mission. The death of Charles Vallow. On July 11, 2019, the escalating tensions within the Vallow household culminated in a deadly encounter. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, shot and killed Charles during what Alex described as a domestic dispute at Lori's home in Chandler, Arizona. Alex said he acted in self-defense, claiming that Charles had hit him with a baseball bat during a fight. Initially, the police thought the incident was a valid act of self-defense and closed the case without looking into it further. However, later events raised serious questions about Alex's story. Notably, Lori's behavior following Charles's death raised red flags. Rather than displaying grief or shock, she appeared unnervingly calm and detached. Witnesses reported that Lori told friends and family that Charles had been taken over by an evil spirit and that his death was part of a divine plan. Lori reportedly described her husband's demise as a necessary step in her spiritual journey, rationalizing his death within the framework of her religious beliefs. Detectives learned that Charles had switched the beneficiary of his $1 million life insurance to his sister, Kay Woodcock, from Lori. This might have taken away a potential motive for killing. Less than 3 months after Charles died, another tragedy happened. On October 19, 2019, Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife for nearly 30 years, died suddenly at their home in Salem, Idaho. At that time, Chad said Tammy died in her sleep from natural causes and no autopsy was done. The death certificate said her cause of death was natural causes, and the family had a simple burial. Chad's actions after Tammy died made people suspicious. Just 2 weeks later, Chad married Lori in a small ceremony in Hawaii. The timing of their marriage, along with their beliefs about the end of the world and past connections, made police and family members wonder about how Tammy died. Tammy was said to be healthy before she suddenly passed away, and her family started to think something bad might have happened. Due to pressure from officials in Tammy's family, her body was dug up again in December 2019 for more tests. The autopsy results were shocking. Tammy died from asphyxiation, meaning it wasn't from natural causes. This finding not only pointed to Chad being involved in Tammy's death, but also raised concerns about Lori and Chad's possible role in other suspicious deaths. A chilling pattern emerges. Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell were killed, adding to a disturbing pattern tied to Lori and Chad. The victims were closely connected to the couple and seemed to stand in their way, whether through financial ties, family relationships, or perceived spiritual conflicts. Both deaths were initially ruled natural or justified, but were later re-examined due to the couple's actions and beliefs. Authorities began to piece together a narrative that suggested Lori and Chad viewed these deaths as necessary steps in their apocalyptic mission. Their belief system, which revolved around spiritual hierarchies and the need to eliminate dark spirits, provided a disturbing rationale for their actions. This belief system would later come into sharper focus as investigators uncovered more evidence linking the couple to the disappearance and deaths of Lori's children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow. The series of sad events involving Lori and Chad highlighted a frightening truth. Their strong beliefs and controlling behavior had broken families and taken lives. As the investigation continued, it was clear that their actions followed a planned pattern, fueled by a harmful mix of fanatical beliefs and selfishness. The disappearance of Tylee and JJ, heartbreaking mystery revealed. In September 2019, the life of Tylee Ryan at age 17 and her younger brother JJ Vallow, age 7, took a dark and sorrowful turn. Tylee's mother, Lori Vallow, had recently begun dating Chad Daybell, a self-proclaimed prophet. At first, their extreme religion and clandestine activities began to concern their friends and close relatives, but what awaited was something that would boggle the minds of millions across the country. The last known photograph of Tylee Ryan was taken on September 8, 2019, during a family visit to Yellowstone National Park. A picture from this day shows Tylee along with Lori, JJ, and Alex Cox, her brother, enjoying what looks like a beautiful view outdoors. This would be the last known picture of Tylee. After that family trip, Tylee went missing without leaving an explanation, and there was no credible sighting of her afterward. JJ, who had autism and needed regular care, was last seen on September 23, 2019. Lori's friends said that JJ was becoming more upset and hard to handle in the days before he went missing. Even with his difficulties, JJ had a caring support system. This included his grandparents, Kay and Larry Woodcock, who adopted him along with Lori and Charles Vallow. When JJ stopped going to school and Lori could not tell anyone a good reason for the same, people started worrying. Lori and Chad's dishonest claims. Initially, Lori and Chad offered vague and inconsistent explanations about the children's whereabouts. They claimed that Tylee was attending college and that JJ was staying with a family friend. However, when law enforcement attempted to verify these claims, they found no evidence to support them. The couple's evasiveness deepened the mystery and raised suspicions about their involvement in the children's disappearance. As worries increased, the Woodcocks spoke up more, asking for answers about their grandchildren. Their determination caused the police to start a formal investigation. Detectives found that neither child had been seen or heard from in weeks, and that Lori had been taking JJ's Social Security benefits, even though he was missing. These discoveries, along with Lori and Chad's sudden trip to Hawaii, created a troubling situation. The search for the children. The search for Tylee and JJ became a huge case, and people talked about it in every corner of the country and even worldwide. News organizations reported every change in the case, and online detectives looked closer at every detail, wondering what might have happened to the children. The story got more attention not just because the children were missing, but also because Lori and Chad acted strangely and had unusual beliefs. As the investigation went on, several court orders were issued by the authorities asking Lori to present her children. During one of the critical moments, a judge issued a deadline for Lori to present Tylee and JJ in court. Lori failed to abide by this order, and she was arrested in February 2020 in Hawaii. She was charged with deserting and not supporting her dependent children, which made people even more fearful that Tylee and JJ were dead. The grim discovery. After a long search for months, the investigation finally came to an end in June 2020. The police were called to Chad Daybell's property in Rexburg, Idaho, after they had obtained a search warrant. They employed cadaver dogs and special radar in order to look underground, and they discovered places with disturbed soil. What they found would trouble everyone who was connected to the case. The bodies of both children were found buried in shallow graves. Tylee's was cut into pieces and burnt, making it very hard to identify her. JJ was found whole, but had been tied up with duct tape on his mouth, hands, and feet. He had been wrapped in plastic and was buried in a grave near the fire pit. The horrible state of their bodies confirmed all the worst fears of the people who had been keeping track of the case. The aftermath. Finding Tylee and JJ's remains broke the hearts of their family and friends, especially the Woodcocks. They had spoken up for the children during the investigation. Kay Woodcock shared her sadness, saying, "We prayed they would be found alive, but we are grateful to finally have answers." The discovery also changed the legal situation for Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Both were charged with many crimes, including first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The shocking evidence made the charges stronger and showed how far Lori and Chad went to support their doomsday beliefs. A chilling motive. As investigators looked more closely into Lori and Chad's beliefs, it became clear that their actions were driven by their shared false religious ideas. They thought that Tylee and JJ had turned into zombies controlled by dark spirits, making their bodies hopeless. In their wrong thinking, the children needed to die to free their spirits. These beliefs, even though they were not true and very troubling, gave the couple a way to explain their terrible actions. Public reaction and legacy. The case of Tylee and JJ had a lasting effect on the public's mind. It showed the risks of extreme beliefs and the harmful effects of unchallenged false beliefs. The story also talks about how important it is to protect at-risk children and the need for stronger action in cases with unstable parents. These tragic stories of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow remind us of the dangers of manipulation, false beliefs, and extreme behaviors. Though their lives ended too soon, They still inspire efforts to protect children's rights and safety everywhere. As the court cases against Lori and Chad continue, the public keeps asking for justice for Tylee and JJ. In June 2020, after finding the remains of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow on Chad Daybell's property, the authorities acted quickly. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were both arrested and charged with serious crimes because of what they did. They were first charged with planning to commit murder and hiding evidence, but then more serious first-degree murder charges were added later. Arrests and preliminary charges. The charges against Lori and Chad were based on months of investigation. Prosecutors revealed a pattern of planning, manipulation, and exploitation. Key evidence included Lori continuing to collect Social Security benefits for her deceased children, and Chad increasing his late wife Tammy Daybell's life insurance payout to the maximum. These actions suggested a calculated motive to profit from their crimes. When arrested, Lori and Chad claimed to be innocent and not guilty of the charges. Their defense teams argued that the unusual religious beliefs of the couple did not lead to the murders. They argued that there was no evidence to show intent and motive for the death. The prosecutors, however, did not agree with this version. They told a story of greed, delusion, and planned harm. Prosecutors' strategy. Prosecutors said that Lori and Chad used their doomsday religious beliefs to hide their terrible actions. They claimed that the couple's beliefs were not just unusual, but harmful, as they were twisted to fit their selfish goals. The main point of the prosecution's case was that Lori and Chad's stories about possession, zombies, and divine missions were weak excuses to get rid of things in the way of their relationship and money goals. Lori was also not following court orders regarding her children, while Chad married quickly after the death of Tammy Daybell in a suspiciously prompt fashion. This did much for the case of the prosecution. Messages, emails, and statements from individuals acquainted with the couple made manifest their losing grip on reality, believing they had some kind of special purpose in this world. The trial, a media spectacle. The trial of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell became a media sensation, captivating audiences worldwide. The shocking nature of the case, coupled with the couple's extreme beliefs, the innocent lives lost, and the eerie timeline of events, drew widespread attention. The courtroom became a battleground for opposing narratives, one of justice for the victims and another of religious freedom and misguided faith. Key testimonies. Many who were once close to Lori and Chad testified in court and presented some pretty strong evidence about how the couple became fanatical. Old friends, family members, and religious associates told stories of how Lori changed after meeting Chad and how their common beliefs were used to manipulate and control others. Melanie Gibb, a good friend of Lori, was an important witness. She talked about how Lori and Chad's beliefs became more extreme over time. Gibb shared conversations where Lori and Chad called Tylee and JJ zombies and made excuses for their disappearance. Gibb's testimony showed Lori as a mother who chose to accept Chad's doomsday beliefs, even if it hurt her children. Lori's relatives, including her surviving son Colby Ryan, shared heartbreaking accounts of their growing concerns for Tylee and JJ and their confusion over Lori's lack of urgency in addressing the children's absence. Their emotional testimonies highlighted the devastation Lori's actions had on her family. The trial also featured expert witnesses in religious studies and psychology who shed light on how apocalyptic beliefs can distort reality and justify immoral behavior. These experts explained that Lori and Chad's interpretations of LDS theology, while not representative of mainstream beliefs, created a framework where they could rationalize their actions. Psychologists examined Lori and Chad's mental states, highlighting how their shared delusions strengthened each other. Experts explained that their distorted view of reality, based on a fabricated spiritual hierarchy of light and dark spirits, drove their sense of morality. Public reaction and media frenzy. The trial sparked much debate among people regarding the relationship between religion, extreme beliefs, and crime. Some argued that Lori and Chad were not mentally sane, while others argued they knew what they were doing and used their religious belief to cover up their murders. Social media and public opinion. The case gained immense popularity on social media. The people who love true crime, legal experts, and citizens of the country observed everything closely. The case has been hashtagged many times, and online forums of true crime were filled with theories and discussions. Documentaries and podcasts made people even more interested, turning the trial into one of the most watched in a long time. Wider effects. The trial brought forth important questions about religious extremism and how easily some people can be manipulated. Experts and advocates asked for better ways to protect children and vulnerable adults from harm in situations with extreme beliefs or cult-like behavior. This case also demonstrated that there needs to be early intervention if there is any kind of strange behavior suggesting possible danger. The verdict and ongoing effects. As the trial continued, the evidence against Lori and Chad mounted, and the public waited for the jury's decision with bated breath. Many clamored for the severest punishments possible. The case still stands as a stark reminder of how delusion, greed, and manipulation can lead to unimaginable tragedy. Though some closure is found through the litigation, the fact remains that Tylee and JJ are gone, and the sad story of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell comes to an end. Their case serves not only as a quest for justice, but also as a cautionary tale of the dangers of fanaticism, a mother's betrayal. The saddest part of the case to most people was Lori betraying her children. Tylee and JJ were very intelligent, kind, and promising kids. Their life was cut short by someone who was supposed to care for them the most. Family members, including Lori's surviving son, Colby Ryan, felt sadness and shock. In interviews, Colby said his mother was different from the woman he once knew. "I just want justice for my siblings," he said, sharing what many others who followed the case also felt. The legacy of the tragedy. The chilling case of Lori Vallow and her children serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked beliefs and fanaticism. As we await the final verdict, let's remember Tylee and JJ and honor their memory by staying vigilant against the dangers of extreme ideologies. Like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on more true crime stories and insights. And if you're eager for another gripping tale, don't miss out on a story that will delving into the mysterious and heartbreaking cold case that has left a community searching for answers for decades. Dive in and uncover the chilling details that have kept this case unsolved. Stay tuned.